On the YouTube? Yeah. Looks like it's the glasses. I'll see if I can do it. Oh yeah, usually Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janayandana Yashodanandana Braja Janayandana Yamuna Tira Varadhari Vamuna Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Antarat Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Thank you so much. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to personality of Godhead, Narayan, unto Nara Narayan Rishi, the supreme human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nashta Prayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Together by regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and the rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. Loving service to the personality of Godhead, whose praise of transcendental songs is established as irrevocable. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangam nagayate gurum yatprapatamam nande Shri Gurum Dinatarim Parmanam Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna, good morning. Good morning. Nice to have you all here this morning for the Srimad Bhagavatam class for the morning program. It's very cold today, very odd for March. You could have easily called in sick to your ashram later and not come. But thank you all for coming today. So today we're going to be reading from we're reaching the end of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. And the last few pastimes and interactions he had with his devotees in Vrindavan is going to happen in these few chapters we're going to read today. It's chapter 11 in the A God Who Dances book, page 195. Yeah. And so we'll just go around. We can have mics ready. Each one of us read one verse. You can just go around reading.
As Krishna was preparing for a rasa dance at dusk, a demon named Arista, who was fierce and cruel and brusque, descended on Vrindavan as a bull of massive size. His hooves tore ruts in Mother Earth and left her terrorized.
With glaring eyes, his tail erect, Arista roared and fussed. His sharpened, wildly swinging horns turned levees into dust. Clouds gathered round his back hump. They mistook it for a peak. As he thundered here and there, his stool and urine leaked.
Arishta's awful bellowing caused people's heart to pound. Pregnant cows and women all miscarried at the sound. Domesticated animals fled quickly through the fields. Everyone cried, Krishna, with a terror unconcealed.
On seeing the community distraught and taking flight, Lord Krishna called, "Don't be afraid," and dared the bull to fight. "You fool, you wicked rascal, what do you intend to do when I am here to take the lives of miscreants like you?"
To further agitate the demon, Krishna slapped his arms, then leaned upon a friend and faced the bull without alarm. Arishta pawed the ground, enraged, and raised his tail so high it passed his hump, attracting all the floating clouds nearby.
His head held low, his horns straight out, his rage intensified. Arishta glared at Krishna from the rims of bloodshot eyes, stampeding straight at Krishna to destroy him. Then and there, the bull shot like a thunderbolt of Indra through the air.
The deadly bull closed in on him, but Krishna didn't mind. He seized Arishta's horns and threw him 18 steps behind. He looked to be an elephant who tosses on his back, a smaller rival elephant who foolishly attacks.
Repulsed in such degrading terms, Arista, with a snort, stood up and shook his head and charged again in fierce retort. Sweat pouring from his body, running fast, breathing hard, Arista pounced on Krishna with a reckless disregard.
Again, Lord Krishna seized his horns and tossed the bull aside. He thrashed Arishta like a rock and kicked his scruffies hide. At last, the Lord yanked out Arishta's horn up to the root and beat him with it forcefully until he stilled the brute.
Arishta rolled his eyes, wretched blood, and felt his fame in polo. While passing stool and urine, he was dragged to death's abode. The gods above, rejoicing with a loud, triumphant sound, showered honor to Lord Krishna, tossing flowers to the ground.
The Lord, who is a festival within the gopis' eyes, went home with Ram to celebrate the demon bull's demise. Lord Krishna is so versatile, as every bhakta knows. He's harder than a thunderbolt and softer than a rose.
In Mathura, soon afterwards, Sri Narada, the sage, perceiving that Lord Krishna's life had entered a new stage, decided to see Kamsa, who was evil and misled, to expedite Lord Krishna's plan to saintly collar set.
You've lost so many demons in Vrindavan recently. Are you aware that Krishna is the son of Devaki? Yes, Vasudeva exchanged his son for Nanda's baby girl, deceiving you, her parents, and the balance of the world. A prophecy has stated that your death will come about from Devaki's 8th son. That son is Krishna, have no doubt. His older brother Ram is also Vasudeva's son. These nephews of King Nanda killed your demons one by one.
On hearing this, King Kamsa's fury surged within his brain. He snatched his sword and shouted, Vasudeva shall be slain. But Narada reminded him, think well before you act. If you kill him, his sons will flee, but later they'll attack.
So Kamsa sent his soldiers to imprison Devaki, along with Vasudeva, under tight security. He thought, I'll dispatch Keshi to make Krishna disappear. But if he fails, these foolish boys will seek their parents here.
King Kamsa next assembled all his ministers and said, Dear Janara and Mushtika, this Krishna wants me dead. You both are very famous for your wrestling skill and might. If Krishna reaches Mathura, you challenge him to fight. A red great arena let the people come and cheer. Invite the foremost wrestlers, make a festive atmosphere. When Krishna and his brother are attracted to complete, my elephant will trample them beneath his massive feet.
Chaturdashi is coming soon. Assemble beasts and key and hold a Vedic sacrifice, so Shiva will be pleased. Completing his instructions, wicked Kamsa then decreed, now bring Akrura, foremost of our dynasty, to me.
Akrura, highly learned and respected through the land, appeared the perfect pawn for Kamsa's latest wicked plan. Akrura, he said gushingly, you generous, brilliant man, do me a little favor. Kamsa smiled and held his hand.
As Indra turns to Vishnu for the most important task, I need a man like you who can accomplish what I ask. Proceed now to Vrindavan and return with Nanda's sons. Here, take our finest chariot, the new and shiny one.
The gods, with help from Vishnu, sent these boys to murder me. Bring them to Mathura, where, confidentially, my elephant will trample them. And if they should survive, my wrestlers will confront them in the ring and take their lives.
When they are dead, their father Vasudeva shall be next, and then I'll kill their relatives on this or that pretext. And when I kill my father, Ugrasena, who shall mourn, the earth, my friend, shall then be mine, devoid of any thorns.
My friends in arms, Jarasandha, Dvivida, and the rest, will help me kill remaining kings who fail to queens. And that's my plan. Now bring those boys to savor their surprise. Our city and a wrestling match await their childish eyes.
As Kamsa chuckled wickedly, the grave Akrura said, you plan things quite precisely so that you'll come out ahead. And yet one must be steady throughout failure or success. Despite our planning, fate alone determines what comes next.
An ordinary person plans and struggles and inspires, despite the fact that fate intrudes and stifles all desires. He gains, but then he loses and he suffers nonetheless. I am your subject, duty bound to honor your request.
Foolish Kamsa listened, but he could not understand. Akrura had discreetly laid a curse upon his plans. King Kamsa laughed, dismissed his staff, and strolled off on his own. Akrura, thinking deeply, left the palace and went home.
Okay, now if you can, we'll sing it in a meter. I'll start off and you can follow for this next section. Will be when Keshi arrived in a huge horse's form, he ravaged through Braj like a thunderous storm. He scared the people, his hairs on his mane, split clouds and shook gods from their heavenly plains. When Krishna
saw everyone running in fright, he challenged the demon to face him and fight. Although the beast happily met his request, his lion-like roar left the Lord unimpressed.
Enraged, the beast charged with his mouth open wide, apparently trying to swallow the sky. The Lord seized his legs with a marvelous knack and spun him and threw him 100 yards back. The rogue lay unconscious and injured, but then he angrily stood and charged Krishna again.
Lord Krishna so gracefully parried and faked, he looked like Garuda tormenting a snake. When Krishna reached Keshi, whose mouth opened wide, Lord Krishna propelled his left fist deep inside. It looked like a snake who, on hearing a sound, goes slithering into a hole into the ground.
The fist of Lord Krishna took out Keshi's teeth and made a sensation of terrible heat. His arm then expanded beyond normal size, quite like a bare belly that swells when one dies.
Boom.
As Krishna's left fist enlarged deep in his throat, the demon's breath stopped and he started to choke. With sweat and with kicks rolling eyes in his head, the demon stool crumpled up and fell dead.
As Krishna withdrew his all-powerful arm, the beast lay where he could no longer cause harm. Without the least pride, Is it effortless? Coop, Lord Krishna snip flowers, did demigods true.
Yeah. And now we can go to regular meter to this next section as Keshi got killed. Number 36.
My dear King Vishnuratha, after Keshi was erased, sage Narada found Krishna in a solitary place. The sage saw Krishna's pastimes in Gokul were almost through, and eagerly he praised the Lord and forecast what he would do. Immeasurable Krishna, perfect mystic, Lord Supreme, residing in the cave of every heart, and yet unseen. As if you were the fire buried deep within all wood, for you all things are organized and fully understood.
You build, maintain, and break apart the planets and the stars. Your wishes come about at once, no matter what they are. And yet you have come in person to protect the godly souls as sport by killing demons such as this gigantic foal.
I see that in a day or two you'll kill Mathura's king, his elephant and ministers and wrestlers in the ring. And then I see you'll marry many worthy, loyal wives while tracking down more demons and demolishing their bodies.
See you driving Arjuna in some colossal war, destroying massive armies so they burden earth no more. I thank you, Krishna, perfect, pure, and undiluted Lord, for pastimes such as these that ease humanity's discord.
Completing his predictions in a reverential voice, the foremost of the sages bowed to Krishna and rejoiced. As Narada departed, Krishna turned again to tend his father's many cows with the assistance of his friends.
The cows were grazing happily one day as all the boys were busy playing games like those that every child enjoys. Some boys were thieves, some sheep, and others shepherds in their play. The thieves would steal the sheep when the protectors looked away.
Observing this, a Vyoma Sura, a demon, hatched a ploy and changed himself to look just like another cowherd boy. By acting as a sheep thief in the context of their play, he snatched those boys dressed up as sheep and carried them away.
Then Vyoma hid his prisoners within a cave nearby and sealed it with a boulder, crackling out loud, "Goodbye," returning to the field to take still other boys away. Vyoma found himself arrested like a lion's prey.
This Vyama's so-called cowherd play was just about to end, for Krishna had been watching and he seized the bogus friend. Resuming his gigantic form, the demon rose to fight, but could not shake off Krishna, whose embrace was much too tight.
The gods above intently watched Lord Krishna's swift attack, as instantly the flawless Lord threw Vyoma on his back. As Vyoma wriggled, struggled, pushed, and strained to be released, Lord Krishna choked his life out like a sacrificial beast.
Proceeding to the cave where many boys had been entrapped, Lord Krishna set them free as all the gods in heaven clapped. The boys and gods commended Krishna, singing out his praise as Krishna ambled home in the most nonchalant of ways.
So we'll pause over here. So we could go around, go back through this pastime. So who was the first demon Krishna did in today's reading? Arista, right? He was a bull, yeah. And he was another demon that came later in Krishna's pastimes. And he comes in, and how does Krishna kill him? Yeah, he got his horn and then swung it around, right? And then after that, we see how Narada Muni, he goes about, and what does he do? Yeah, he instigates to Kamsa, right? Yeah, he goes to Kamsa and he instigates to Kamsa saying, you know, what did he say to Kamsa, please? Yeah. So we see he said to Kamsa that that you know Krishna is killing all your demon friends that you're sending to Vrindavan. And so who's Kamsa? Anybody? No. His uncle, right? Krishna's uncle. Yeah. He's Krishna's uncle. Who's Narada Muni? Spaceman. The spaceman. Yeah. The transcendental spaceman. He's one of the pure devotees in our, he's one of the Mahajans, one of the main devotees in our universe. And he's known to travel in the entire Bhagavatam, the Srimad Bhagavatam. Narada Muni, it's basically in some sense where we are always following Narada Muni. And the Bhagavatam is written by whom? Vyasadeva, right? Who's the guru of Vyasadeva, his spiritual master? Narada Muni. So in one sense, you could say the Bhagavatam is almost a glorification. Vyasadeva is glorifying his spiritual master, going through different parts, wherever Narada Muni is going. And he's glorifying his activities. And now, what was your name? Next to Kiara? Yeah. Devi, Hare Krishna. Devi mentioned that Kamsa is a demon, right? He's uncle, but at the same time a demon. So why is Narada Muni going and instigating a demon to, you know, kill Krishna?
So we can glorify Krishna's power.
Glorify Krishna's power. Okay. Advaita Chair. He wants to push the pastimes of Krishna, like makes it happen. Yeah. Krishna wants to come, he wants to do pastimes in the spirit, in this world. And and it's because of the devotees he's able to have this beautiful pastimes. Even killing the demons is because for the sake of the devotees. And so Narada Muni is expediting this process. So he's noticing that the devotees in Krishna's devotees in Mathura. So Krishna is currently in a little village called Vrindavan, which is not too far away from this big kingdom of Mathura. And Krishna's devotees in Mathura, the Yadavas, they're struggling trying to deal with Kamsa. They're suffering being around Kamsa. And so Narada Muni wanted to expedite the next part of Krishna's pastimes, where he would go to Mathura and kill Kamsa. That we'll find out later on, the more details of it later on as we read. But he wanted to push the pastime so that he can protect the devotees in Mathura, the Yadavas, who are struggling so much right now. And his father is whom? Not from Vrindavan, from Mathura? Vasudeva, right? Yeah. And so we see over here a very interesting, this whole time during the Vrindavan pastimes, Vrindavan pastimes is happening when Krishna is very young. This entire time we see so much intrigue with Kamsa, right? That from the get-go, the entire pastime, the entire 10th canto begins with this issue. We hear about this great dynasty of the Yadavas, right? They are, and then within the Yadavas, there's a marriage happening between Vasudeva, the father of Krishna, and his wife, his soon-to-be wife, Devaki. They get married. And then when they get married, they are, usually the tradition is that from the marriage, the brother of the sister, in usual Vedic Indian weddings, the brother of the sister takes the sister and his new brother-in-law to the husband's home. So I remember when my sister got married, I was also doing that little ceremony where I took my sister, my brother-in-law, who's sitting in the car, and we went just to, the new girl is going into a new household. So the brother is like a form of what we say, assurance, like someone from my family is with me, going into this new household. So Vasudeva is going, and he's taking Devaki, and Kamsa, being a very nice brother, was riding the chariot. He was riding the chariot and going. And as he was going, suddenly there was again an instigation that happened. We always hear these sounds from the sky in the past times. The demigods were saying that, you fool, Kamsa, you're riding your own daughter, your own sister to your new household, this new household. But don't you know, the product of this wedding, the eighth pregnancy of Devaki is going to kill you, right? And then Kamsa, who was this very honorable, very, it's such an honorable thing, such a sweet thing to do, to take care of your sister, take her all the way to the new home. Suddenly, he went from that mood, right? A sweet, honorable brother, to as soon as he heard something, he got triggered. He was like, he stopped the chariot, the entire procession. It's a royal wedding. Imagine now, you must have seen some weddings, I don't know, in the UK, the royal wedding. There's a huge procession going. Imagine that procession stops all of a sudden, and someone pulls out a sword and is about to kill the bride. It's like a big thing. She's dressed so nicely and ornately, and she's ready, and then suddenly someone's going to assassinate, at that moment. And that's what was happening over here. Kamsa stood up, was ready to kill Devaki. What a transition, right? Mental transition from a sweet, nice brother to, I'm going to kill this woman because her eighth child is going to kill me. How is that transition happening, right? Super quick. And then at that time, Vasudev, the new husband, he's taking care of his new wife. He has to find a way to protect. And now Kamsa has this history of being this powerful personality. He's got everybody under his thumb in that, in terms of politics, in terms of control. And, we hear all these new TV shows, Game of Thrones and everything, so much political intrigue and everything in it. It's nothing. If we really go into these pastimes and see how much politics and so much like intrigue is in it, it's quite much. It's all these TV shows just are copying all these things, all these pastimes. And so he had so many people under his thumb. So if he was going to kill somebody in the procession, nobody could say anything to him because he had that power. And but he was going to do that. So Vasudev, he had to protect his new wife that he has. And so he pauses Kamsa and he starts this interaction. And this is in the very first chapter of the first canto. This conversation happens. And that's what Prabhupada says in one of the purports, the beginning of the chapter, that mental switch, right? So quick. Like even we find it ourselves in our own practice or just in our lives, like we're in a certain mind frame, then boom, something triggers us. And then our mind just like switches to, we become a different person altogether. And that mental switch is so scary. You get possessed. And so the same mental switch is coming up again, throughout this time, he was, later on in that same section is that Vasudeva was able to diplomatically make some deals, at that moment, imagine, ready to kill, but he paused the situation, actually able to converse. Actually, Prabhupada glorifies Vasudev's, he knows how to, he's a devotee, but at the same time, he's so, he's good in like his diplomacy, good in his speech, that he was able to pause everything and actually make a deal with Kamsa. It was like, somebody who's ready to kill to actually stop them because you're in this whole state of mind to like, when you're in anger, to actually pause them and actually have a conversation. That's something. He kept a cool head. Yeah, it's such a, that's what a devotee is, having a cool head in really tough situations. I'm currently training to fly planes, and one of the things when we're training is that we have to learn emergency procedures. And they pull, so I had a check ride recently where they test us on our knowledge. And as we were flying, the check instructor, just in the middle of nowhere, we were flying, he was telling me to do different maneuvers, practice all that. And then suddenly in the middle of like, I didn't expect it. He just pulled the engine, he turned it off. And we were flying, and he was like, do the emergency procedures. And I was just like, stuck. What do I do? Like, I knew what to do. I studied it. I'd memorized what to do, but that moment came and I was like didn't know what to do at that moment. Like, and then I somehow figured it out and then able to, get it down. But like, I was stuck at that moment, like death is coming, the engine's off, you're gonna die. So same thing, Kamsa was ready to kill, but through practice of that mental, developing that mental strength to be cool and be able to deal with that situation. And so again, this Kamsa, his mind is just fluctuating from here and there. After he made those, Vasudeva was able to make those deals, he was able to, Kamsa became very pacified and very, it's okay, Kamsa, he was like, Vasudeva, I trust you, like Vasudeva made a deal, I'll give you every one of my child. And so then Kamsa, okay, I trust this person. He's very honest, pious man. He'll keep to his word. And so then Vasudeva was giving each of his child. But then at one time, Kamsa just became so pacified that he said, you don't even have to give any of your earlier child. It's your 8th child that's going to kill me, right? Just bring me your 8th child, right? And then Vasudeva he listened to him, but at the same time, he knew the tendency of Kamsa. His mind just flickers, from one thing to the other. So he was like, okay. And then after some time, lo and behold, Kamsa's associates came, wow, actually, Narada Muni came himself. Narada Muni came himself and said that actually all of these children could be Krishna, or all of these children could be demigods, who could kill you. So you got to be safe, take care of all the situation. So then Kamsa was like, oh, and then he goes back to Vasudeva and he says, I need all of your children again. So again, mental switch, mental, like we hear about how people get mental, they're desiring one thing, and they jump to the other thing, like that's Kamsa. and then that goes on, and then finally, the pastime happens, Krishna appears, and then the whole pastime of how Vasudeva goes to Vrindavan and leaves Krishna at Vrindavan under the care of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, the foster parents. And then finally, the entire pastimes in Vrindavan Kamsa is like searching for where this 8th baby went, and then sending all his demons everywhere, and all these demons are dying. And now, finally, we hear again of how we're reaching the very end now of the Vrindavan pastimes, and Narada Muni again comes, this pure devotee, right? He comes again and does that instigation. He's like, he again instigates Kamsa that all your demon friends are dying. What are you going to do about it? And then Kamsa, in his head, again, what he had done during this time, he had actually removed Vasudeva and Devaki from the jail. But at the same time, at that moment, he thought in his head, oh my God, my demon friends are dying. Krishna is still out there. He's in Vrindavan safe. I'm going to kill Vasudeva. His mind just went into wanting to kill Vasudeva. We hear this, we just read that before this. He wanted to kill Vasudeva. And then after that, Narada Muni said, no, it's Krishna who you want. Don't kill Vasudeva. You want Krishna. And so then Then he said, right. And then he put Vasudeva back into prison. And then he puts him into prison. And then he sends the demon Keshi. He says, I'll send Keshi. And if Keshi doesn't get him, then we'll invite Krishna to come to Mathura. And so he sends Keshi, and Krishna takes care of Keshi. And then after he takes care of Keshi demon, Keshi was the horse demon, right? And this that he put his hand into his mouth, right? And that's how actually you control horses, right? Through their mouth. When you anyone's been horse riding here? Yeah. So you control the horse with your mouth, with their mouth, right? They have a little thing through their mouth, and you hold the thing. It's kind of like a scooter, but you turn to the side, the horse will go to that side. You turn the side, the mouthpiece moves, and the horse gets the idea what to do like that. And so Krishna controlled Keshi by putting his hand in his mouth and suffocated him and killed him that way. And then Keshi was killed, and then that's when Kamsa decided to send Akrura. That we'll hear about how Akrura comes and meets Krishna later on in our Bhagavatam study. But Akrura comes and Akrura comes later, and now this situation of how Kamsa is so mental, like he's going from one place to the other. How do we deal with it? What are some things you want to say? Because as I said earlier, I mean, at least in my life, I'm sure any honest person will, in the conditioned state of consciousness, knows that their mind jumps from one place to the other. So what are you guys' thought on that? Christina?
Krishna, one thing I find useful when my mind is kind of going all over the place is sort of what Narada was doing with Kamsa, just like slow down, think this through, because sometimes your mind will tell you that, oh, this is really urgent, you have to do something about it right now. And then if you just kind of stop and think about it, I mean, unless you're in a plane that's about to go down, usually these things are not quite so urgent, and you have a little bit of time to just sort of breathe and be like, okay, well, what should I do next? Because when you try to do something in this kind of panicky mental state, then things usually don't turn out as well as if you're calm.
Being calm, taking that pause.
Is you express it to a mentor or a closer friend, because when you put it out in words, it can get very hectic in the mind, but when you put it out in words, it can be so simple.
Right. Like bringing it out from just in your mind and letting your mind do its thing on you. Right. Anyone else? That?
What Srila Prabhupada's quotes is that when the water is disturbed, you cannot see like what's in it, but when it's calm, then you can see like what's causing the disturbance. So when you're disturbed, like don't try to do so many things when you're agitated. Just go. This says that go sit in one of our temples and chant Hare Krishna. When your mind is then calm, then you can like take Krishna Sutra.
Let your mind be calm, right? Yeah. Let that water settle down. Yeah. It's true, yeah, because there's that analogy also Prabhupada gives of the moon's reflection in the water. But you can't see the water because there's so many. You can't see the moon properly. It's not in a perfect circle. It's all shaken up. So let the water sit, and then you can actually see the moon. Point. Yeah. Yes, Prabhu. What was your name again, Prabhu? Anthony.
Hare Krishna. I like to detach myself from the situation and put myself into a pastime of my own and try to adopt Krishna's qualities and slow things down. Like, what would a superior person do? And then I use that as like a framework to guide my actions.
Right.
So I try to pretend it's not happening to me. And what would the hero in the story do? And it's usually step back and assess the situation, or don't react at all.
Right.
And let karma just work itself out.
Work itself out. Nice. Yeah, that's good. Tyler?
So when I was in college, I began to overthink a lot, and I still do. But someone told me, so like sometimes that's out of your control, right? Like it just happens, and then you're spinning. I used to do like 15 minutes at a time if I needed to, and like schedule 15 minutes to just overthink, to like write a list, to just like get it out. And then you're like, okay, all right, let's do this again tomorrow, maybe. Yeah. And it's kind of like a mode of surrender. You can just like, all right, this is gonna happen. Maybe I could just do it really quickly and like get it out and find something to from it.
Right. Yeah. It's nice. Yeah. This, in terms of this is verse in the Bhagavatam, Yasyasti Bhakti Bhagavata Kinchana. I don't know. Do you must think so, yeah. Manorathena. Yes. So it talks about the qualities of a devotee and a non-devotee. It says how, you know, do you exactly remember the translation per se? Yeah.
But it means Yashasti Bhakti Bhagavati Kinchana. One was an allowed devotion to the Supreme Lord. All the demigodly qualities, Sarve Gunes Tatra Samasati Sura. All the demigodly qualities like manifest in them. Harabha Bhakta Shakutvam Mahatmana. One is not a devotee of Krishna, like what good are his, like what use are his
all his qualities, good qualities.
Manorathena Sati Dhavatavahi. It's just as useless, and one is on the mental platform speculating.
Yeah. Yeah. In that verse, it's talking about how a devotee, because he's in devotion to Krishna, that's his leading good quality. That's what's driving all of his actions. Whereas a non-devotee, although externally sometimes they seem very like composed, very good qualities, you know, very nice. And it's great, you know, to have people like that. But you never know what will trigger them, right? Kamsa, such a nice, honorable person. You don't know what will trigger them, because why? That last line in that verse says, Manorathena. They're on their chariot of their mind. They're sitting on mano means mind, rathena means the chariot, right? You're sitting on the chariot of the mind, and the mind, what's the mind going to do? What is the mind, if anyone would want to say? I heard once, Kiara, you wanted to say something? No, please. Okay. Did you have something? Okay. The mind is basically just a lawyer of your false ego. The mind is just going to be advocating all your past conditionings in this material world, right? So it's just going to be everything in regard to your self-interest and your body, everything regarding your body, regarding all the externals, all the minds and me's. That's what the mind is advocating for. And when a person may have good qualities, good things, as soon as something is coming against their life, something that they hold dearly in their mind, or that mind is going to change direction immediately to get out of its way and change its emotion, change its character. But what is a devotee? The devotee is trying to not be on that manorathena. The devotee is trying to be on the, trying to pull the Jagannath chariot rather than the mind's chariot, trying to be in the flow with Krishna. And so what is that flow? Trying to be of service, not being self-centered, not I, me, mine all the time. So that's what a devotee is trying to do. And that's why it said a devotee is something that we can trust. And what is a devotee? A devotee who's, obviously there's pure devotees, but there's also a devotee who's genuinely trying to fix his consciousness in service to Krishna. And naturally all the good qualities develop because that's his driving force. And so that is why the practice of devotional service, we're all here, you're all here in the ashram over here practicing, waking up in the morning, coming. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, you have to beat up your mind in the morning with a broom, and then at night you got to beat up the mind again with your shoes. What does that mean, right? It's nice, it's great, it's like, yeah, get your mind in line, but what does that mean practically? And the ashram life is actually a wonderful setup to have that system where, you're coming in the morning, right? You're beating, your mind doesn't want to wake up, especially today. Oh my God, it's so cold. You're so cozy in your blanket, and you have to go get up, take a shower, and then get ready, and then in the cold wearing clothes, and then coming down and the girls ashram, they have to walk from outside the cold to come here, and then somehow come for the Mangal Arati, right? So that is you beating up your mind in the morning, saying, listen, we got to make it. We got to correct ourselves. We're coming from Mangal Arati. And then at night, what does it mean? We're trying to sleep early, right? It's again, we don't have a specific program in the ashram, but we can create for ourselves. We can read, we can, calm down ourselves, create a program at night, where you're beating up your mind. No matter what, I'm going to stick to this program. I'm going to sleep by 9, creating that program. So that's how the day, if the mind is in control on both ends, the day you just have to act out your services accordingly. So strong activities in the morning, strong activities at night, through the day, do your service. So that's how we control our mind from just jumping, being on the chariot, us being on the chariot of the mind. So with that, I'll close our study today. If anyone has any comments or questions, or jokes, anything you want to share, please do so. Sorry.
Really inspired by your analogy of the chariot of the mind. Like as soon as I heard you say that, I was like jotting down notes. So I'm gonna say that's cool.
Yeah, it's the verse itself says Manorathena, that verse, which is in the 5th canto, right? 5th canto, yeah. Chapter 18. 5th canto, chapter 18. Yeah. It's a nice read. Christina?
Thank you very much for class. On the topic of controlling the mind, I also thought it was interesting that throughout these pastimes with the demons, it talks about how Krishna is so nonchalant and he's so calm, and like he's being faced by these like enormous, terrifying demons whose like bellows make women miscarry, and their tears are like, their butts are like mountain peaks, and this is terrifying stuff. But Krishna's just like, all right, whatever. And then he faces them and he kills them, and then he just kind of walks away, like kind of like in the movies when you look at the cool guy like walks away from an explosion and doesn't turn back. But that's kind of what Krishna's doing. So it's kind of nice because it kind of teaches you that your mind might be going all over the place. Things might feel very scary, but you can kind of be like that and just be nonchalant about it. It'll turn out okay.
There's this trend on Instagram called the Sigma male, where the guy doesn't have this care about anything and is very like composed, and so Krishna is the ultimate Sigma male, where you see over here like Keshi, that section, it was when Krishna saw everyone running in fight, he challenged the demon to face him and fight. Although the beast, happy, met his request, his lion-like roar left the Lord unimpressed. Imagine, somebody's coming, it's like roaring and like, let's go, like, trash talking and ready to fight. The guy just, he's just there, just observing your craziness, and then that enrages him, even enraged the beast charged with his mouth open wide, apparently trying to swallow the whole sky. He gets even more angry and flustered by that. So yeah, Krishna is so calm and composed. Triggers them more. But yeah. Anything else? Last one? Or yeah, go ahead. Will come inside, okay.
So we're talking about the activities and nature of mind. This is a book by Bhurijan Prabhu on like chanting japa. So I've been reading that recently, and it initially talks a lot about the nature of the mind, and it's like in some words he puts it as the nature of the mind is only to accept and reject. That's all it does. Like put scenarios, accepts and reject. And when you start tasting the distractions of the mind, you also like start getting like flown away. Oh, this is very nice. You start like relishing something, and then, oh, this, I don't like this. You start rejecting some things. But so that all the mind does. And so one thing which might be boring for you today might be interesting for you tomorrow. So you should know that these that you said the Lord is putting forward these arguments, the mind is doing that. Like, don't get carried away by these arguments, because that's its only nature.
Yeah.
Let's accept this, let's check this.
Right.
So better, like, just know that when you know this nature of the mind, then you can take a step back. And instead of like being the, I don't know what, you're in the courtroom and the lawyer is there and maybe you're the defendant or something, like you can be the judge and like tell them what to do instead of being carried away by the mind.
Yeah, that's true. That's nice. That's another factor, is that the mind is also can be your best friend. That's what the Bhagavad Gita says, that it can be your greatest of enemies, which for us, many times it is. It can be the greatest of friends. How does it become a friend? When you develop the mind, you know? The mind is not like a sentient thing. As I said, it's just a reaction. It's just whatever group of things we have throughout our many lifetimes. It's just, you know, bringing those things back into our consciousness. So it's just giving it good impressions in Krishna consciousness, giving it positive impressions, creating that training to that mind. That's when, once you have developed that training, that's what makes that mind your friend, you know? And so ashram life, I'm saying it from a perspective that I spent 6 years in Krishna house here in the past, and now I've moved out and doing other services later on down the road for myself. But I've been noticing how ashram life really set that tone in my consciousness, you know, where I have to do my 16 rounds, you know, I have to do my reading of Bhagavatam, you know, I have to do those activities, because without it, obviously, the material will just take me. And then obviously I come every year now and then to take your wonderful association. But the ashram life really set a tone where that external practice of devotional service, you know, we're all sadhanas, where we're doing those external practices to get that internal experience, you know. So that's what ashram life is, getting that external practices down in our head to develop that internal process. So yeah, with that, we will end our class. Thank you so much for participating, for listening so nicely. Srimad Bhagavatam ki